report has been approved by the National Council of Science and Technology from the President's Office and Makerere University School of Social Science. We are live, for those that are just tuning in right now again, we're live on NTV. We are currently at the Serena Hotel in Kampala, and I greet all of you. I warmly welcome all of you, those plugged in online, locally and internationally, through our Zoom link, those tuned in on TV and on television in the comfort of your sitting room. You're very, very welcome. My name is Doris Mvano Ndizeye. I shall be your moderator for the day, and I'm a business analyst consultant. To say a little bit about me, my work involves research, performance management, strategy, business analysis, in order to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the businesses that I serve. I'm passionate about economic development, and this is one of the reasons that we're here today, socioeconomic transformation, but I won't get into that just yet. To start, I would like to take us a moment and have the national anthem be played, please. Thank you very much. Thank you, IT team. You may have your seats, please. We live in very unprecedented times. Are you all aware about the COVID-19 pandemic that is ravaging businesses, economies, families? A lot of people have lost their loved ones. Some businesses are failing. With that, we just want to take a special moment right now, just 30 seconds to take a moment just to think about those that have departed us. So kindly, let's just take 30 seconds. Thank you so much. For those joining us now, we are at the validation workshop for the Cooperative Resilience Research Report. We're going to run through the program, but we're going to start off kick off this workshop by me introducing the Chief Executive Officer of the Uhuru Institute, Mr. Leonard Okello. He is going to give us his opening remarks and officially kickstart this workshop. So friends, join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Leonard Okello, Chief Executive Officer of the Uhuru Institute for Social Development. Leonard, you're welcome.
Are we on? Is it on the screen already? Good. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. As you've been told, we are excited to bring to you the validation workshop of this study on resilience of cooperatives that I will leave the details to be given to you by the team. I'm here just to welcome you and wish you a very good day. And as I do that, I'd like also to take the opportunity to let you understand a bit more about the Uhuru Institute. We were founded in 2013, and we are an institute, a source of business that is set up to provide and connect cooperatives to various products and services that cooperatives have and would like to get into. We also provide these services, link them to these services, so that they can contribute effectively to socio-economic transformation of this country. We hope that this program will soon get to the Pan-African and global scene. To achieve that, we are running a strategy called the COP360 Initiative, with a mission of enabling a united, enterprising, prosperous cooperative movement that contributes at least 40% of Uganda's GDP by 2026. Very ambitious program, but we're determined to be part of making a difference in socio-economic transformation of this country through the cooperative business model. In doing that, we have adopted a learning-as-you-go strategy. This has helped us a lot to build our understanding of cooperatives, their needs, their ambitions, their hopes, through practice, research, and innovating dynamic and flexible products and services and solutions for cooperatives. In doing so, we have innovated a number of enterprises that we use to provide these services and solutions and connect cooperatives. The first being the COP360 network. This is a network of looking into a member-driven, household-focused, integrated cooperatives. I repeat, we are driving to build member-driven, household-focused, integrated cooperatives in Uganda and beyond. Because until cooperatives are truly driven by its membership, which you'll get to know a bit more as we do the research, you'll find for yourself that that cooperative struggles. And if the cooperative does not benefit its members, the members do not patronize it, that cooperative struggles. And because the members' challenges in Uganda are not just one item, maybe growing one particular crop, we are thinking cooperatives must do a bit more integrated businesses. So it is member-driven, household-focused, integrated cooperatives that the COP360 network is building. And we're looking at attracting at least one cooperative per district so that we help them grow from the limited space they're in into a giant and a module for that district. Because they realize that the cooperative movement has suffered so much, and it is only important that we help them build that. So that is already taking place. We already have cooperatives in different parts of the country, 15 as we talk now, and we have a number of applications. But the process of joining is rigorous, so that we help that cooperative get started to grow with us together. Because we realize that just calling people in will make them not come with that dream of a member-driven, household-focused, integrated cooperative. We also provide training and business development support through the Skill Corp, which today is launching the Business Handbook, the Business Success Handbook. The Skill Corp enterprise was designed based on the needs derived from the research we have done and our work with cooperatives. The capacity building we do is also adopting a learning as you go. So everything we do helps the cooperative build its internal capacity. We also provide media services through the Cooperator magazine. The Cooperator does news for cooperatives, cooperative education, and cooperative advocacy. When we started working, the news about cooperatives was not very common in Ugandan media. But going around the country, getting more people excited and joining the cooperative movement, we have seen an increasing cooperative. So we have put this magazine to become the voice of the cooperative movement. And we are working with this magazine to advocate, to educate and inform people about what is happening in the cooperative movement, especially those voices of the voiceless from the grassroots that often do not find spaces in the public and decision-making fora. We also run the Uhuru think tank. The think tank provides strategic research, policy advocacy, and for informing scientific decision-making in the work we do. This think tank is what is going to deliver to you today. A very interesting research about cooperative resilience. We also have a financing facility for cooperatives. This is called the Freedom Fund. It's about raising financial freedom. It's time for freedom now. And the best is financial freedom we're talking about. So it's about dynamic, flexible, affordable financing for cooperatives. It is usually members of those cooperatives recommended by their cooperatives who sign agency agreement with the Freedom Fund that get these loans from the Freedom Fund. There are a number of products credit products under the Freedom Fund. We also provide insurance services under the Freedom Fund. We have a number of ICT solutions we are building. One which is already started to work, but others about to get onto running in the near future. They include a profiler for cooperative, what they call the COP360 profiler, The profiler draws data of every member of the cooperative and profiles the cooperative itself, so that the cooperative can understand the challenges of the institution, but also the challenges of its members, and can be able to provide the services its members actually require. It is usually when we are finished providing the members that leaders and managers who are working with us, who are members of the COP 360 network, wake up to realizing, wow, we are providing probably even less than 1/3 of the services our members need. And they begin to work to do this after the analysis drawn from the COP 360 profiler. So-called in the marketplace, an e-commerce platform which is just about to get launched, and Splendor, an ERP system which will cover accounting, stores, human resource, customer care, and payment solutions, and anti-money laundering. So those are systems we are putting in place so that the corporate movement can go digital. In the world of today, we cannot have cooperators claiming to do business and not going digital. You'll get to know more on that in the research study which is coming. And finally, we have a youth program called the Youth Leadership and Entrepreneurship Development Program. We train leaders and entrepreneurial leaders. And I can tell you, I can proudly report to you here, Mr. Chairman, that a number of the young people we train are councillors in the district councils, in sub-county councils, and quite a few are now in parliament. They are OBs and alumni of the COP 360 of the Youth Leadership and Entrepreneurship Development Programs that we build. The program is called No Excuses, because in the life of today, the youth cannot afford excuses anymore. We've got to move and move now. Those are the enterprises that the Uhuru Institute provides services to cooperators every day. And we are building them, we are growing them, in the hope that in the next 3 to 5 years, actually cooperatives will co-own these by buying shareholding into them when they're ready. When they become systematically perfect enough to run, we would like then members, cooperatives who have joined the network can co-own this in shareholding, and they run as property of the cooperative movement. We are not doing this to enrich the Uhuru Institute, because we are a social business. We're not about getting too rich. We're about enabling our people grow together with us. So we have had very interesting enabling partners, and I'd like to just mention some of them. We worked with the Uganda Cooperative Alliance. In an MOU with the Uganda Cooperative Alliance, we conducted 15 regional trainings, training an average of about 5 people in every sub-region of this country, about the 15 ethno-demographic sub-regions of the country. We went to Karamoja, Teso, Lango, Acholi, West Nile, Bunyoro, Rwenzori, Kabale, Kigezi, Ankole, West Buganda, East Buganda, Busoga, Bukedi, and Bugisu. In each of these places, we learned many things. Together with the UCA, we learned many things that cooperators are looking for. We've learned the dreams that cooperatives have. And today, those lessons is what has informed all the enterprises you see us building now. We also want to thank the Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives for recognizing the skills we bring on the table and the innovations we have brought on the table, and building a relationship with us and inviting us. And I mean, they invited us to sign an MOU with them, which we signed with them in 2017 for 3 years. And it was a very interesting relationship, which helped us to understand even better the challenges that even the Department of Cooperatives has, and what can be done to help them and for them to help us too. It was very useful to get that. I would also like to recognize the first partner we actually worked with, who gave us the first research money and startup financing. That was ActionAid Uganda. At that point, when we started, we had a laptop, and that was it. It is ActionAid, in its tradition that I know, which gave us startup capital to do the first study we did in 2020 and launched in 2013, and also part of that money to make us set a small room, which was called an office for the first time. That's where we came from. I also want to thank very much for 4 years, actually 5 years, in the institutional and innovations development financing that came from none other than the Fund for Global Human Rights. And of late, the Busara Center supporting us in this research we are talking about, and most importantly, the bulk of it coming from the Open Society Foundation of London. These partners saw something in what we are doing, trusted what we are doing, believed in us, and have walked the journey with us to reach today that we are giving you a study report that you may want to find very interesting studying. And finally, they are not the smallest. They are probably our biggest. Our customers and clients, especially cooperators, who religiously buy our T-shirts, the cooperator T-shirt, religiously buy the research material, religiously buy different things that we do. And those have helped us a lot. They have really helped us a lot. And they are growing us, make us more and more become sustainable to get slowly, progressively out of external financing. This workshop, validation workshop, I would like to say something about it. It couldn't have come at a better time, because this time is a time when COVID has ravaged the world and impacted, like other businesses, they've impacted cooperatives seriously, negatively. But it also comes at a time when the International Cooperative Alliance and the global cooperative community are preparing for a convention in Seoul in 2021. Most of the people attended virtually. But the biggest focus of that global convention for cooperatives in Seoul 2021 in November this year is going to discuss mainly cooperative resilience. When we started doing this study, preparing for this study, little did we know something was happening together, and everybody was thinking resilience, and the ICA in the headquarters was thinking cooperative resilience too. So this study is not just about helping Uganda's knowledge base. It's actually going to contribute to the global knowledge and dialogue around in cooperative resilience and what could be done to improve on it. Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't tell you more. I want to just thank you very much and wish you a successful listening, debate, and resolutions that come out of this study so we can complete it and make the best use of it for us and for the world out there. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
And there you had it. That was the Chief Executive Officer of the Uhuru Institute for Social Development, Mr. Leonard Okello. He is a forward-thinking, visionary, and tenacious leader. Thank you, Leonard, for those remarks. As you all heard, there are quite a number of products and services that the Uhuru Institute has, in addition to their research arm, which is why we're here today. Services that address training needs, financing needs, advocacy needs, to say but a few. Right now, I would like to take this moment to invite another very important member, especially to the Uhuru Institute. He's the chairman of the Uhuru Institute. His name is Mr. Dunstan Kisule. I would like to invite him to greet us as well. We're running bad on time, but if he can greet us in 3 minutes, then we will carry on. Join me in inviting Dunstan Kisule, chairman of the Uhuru Institute board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Because of time, I will just read the message that I have. Since 1913, the cooperative movement in Uganda has undergone a journey of opportunities and challenges, but has remained alive even when many out there had written them off. Cooperatives have transited from the anti-colonial movement to a monopoly of cash crop marketing to competing with local and international private sector players in the market. The cooperative business context has witnessed further changes, such as a younger market population, emergence of instant digital transactions, and globalization, bringing a variety of products and services into the sitting rooms of our markets through mobile money, other online payment solutions, which demand accurate and timely accountability from cooperative managers and leaders. With increasing natural disasters like floods, droughts, locusts, and now health emergencies like the COVID-19 pandemic, the risk of decreasing organizational resilience and increasing vulnerability is extremely high. To remain resilient, we need to rethink our business models, modernize our operational systems, and regularly conduct strategic research that will inform our business and institutional development decision-making to fit in contemporary times. This also means that our operations are informed by our unique cooperative identity, namely values, ethical values, and the 7 principles of cooperatives to maintain social impact, the social impact mission. This is what the study that was carried out by the Uhuru Institute for Social Development has attempted to find answers to. And so it's my prayer that the cooperative movement and the government worldwide over will find value in the findings of the cooperatives resilience study to help in the search for solutions that can grow the cooperatives for the good of humanity. From what we've been told here today so far by the CEO, the study also confirms that the urgent need for imparting knowledge in the cooperative movement through trainings, mentorship, and coaching in business skills development solutions is urgently needed. As I end, I'm extremely happy to see that this book and the study are going to be launched today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dunstan. That was Dunstan Kisule, Chairman of the Uhuru Institute for Social Development Board. Now, without further ado, because we're trying to keep time, just to mention, Dunstan, I equally agree and I'm equally excited for the report and the handbook that are about to be launched today. So thank you for those words. We take it to heart. Now on the program, we will have Gideon Tor. He is the Engagement Director at Busara Center for Behavioral Economics in Nairobi. Gideon is with us on our Zoom link. Gideon, if you're on, please just say hello to make sure that you're there. Gideon Tor, Engagement Director for Busara. Busara is one of our partners that played a very key role in this research report. Gideon?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, Gideon, please give us your remarks before we jump into I think everyone is ready for the meat, but please give us your remarks. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Greetings, warm greetings, everyone from Nairobi. My name is Gideon Tor. I am an engagement director at the Busara Center for Behavioral Economics based here in Nairobi. As the name suggests, Busara is a research and advisory organization that works with a range of different partners in the private, public, and social sectors, where we work with them to apply behavioral economics insights, principles, and methodologies in designing and implementing research studies, programs, products, and policies. So we have active operations in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Nigeria, but also in India, but work primarily across most of the African continent and South Asia. So Busara has worked with the Uhuru Institute for about 5 years now. We've had a very fruitful collaboration since 2016. We have collaborated on multiple research and capacity building activities, which have really strengthened the Uhuru Institute's appetite for and capacity for using research, evidence, and data as a foundation for organizational strategy, product development, and general overall decision-making at the organization. In 2018, we collaborated with Uhuru again on a similar foundational research study, which aimed at collecting and consolidating relevant data on cooperatives across Uganda. And the findings from that research informed the research we're about to present to you, but also it informed a lot of the decisions and actions that Uhuru has taken since then, as well as the decisions of other key stakeholders, including the government, private sector, development partners, and communities in general. So our primary role for this research was to support the Uhuru Institute with the end-to-end research process. So right from designing the research to seeking the research, the relevant research approvals, to data collection and analysis, and finally to the report writing process. And my colleague James Kenga later on will speak more about that. But I would like to say that under the leadership of Jane Okello, Uhuru has done a remarkable job with how they've been able to study and effectively articulate what is a very conceptually complex topic, and that is the intersection between cooperative identity and cooperative resilience, and we'll speak about this a bit later. So I would really encourage you all to engage with the research report and the findings, and really have a different perspective on the cooperative movement in Uganda. In closing, Busara is incredibly proud of our partnership with the Uhuru Institute, and we're really proud of the tireless effort that Jane and her team have taken over the last 1.5 years to successfully design and implement this research. And this is in the context of the many challenges that we can all agree the world has faced as a result of the pandemic. So, to be here today is quite a testament to Jane and her team's dedication to this work. And, we are looking forward to Uhuru cementing its leadership role within the cooperative movement in Uganda. So we look forward to today's workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was Gideon Tor from Busara Center, based in Nairobi. Tunakushukuru sana. That means we thank you and we appreciate you. Very touching words there from Gideon Tor to the Uhuru Institute. We're equally proud to be associated and to partner with Busara over the years. Next up is Michael Nkonu. Michael is from the Open Society Foundation. He's the program officer for climate finance strategy. Hope I got that right, Michael. So from OSF, Open Society Foundation, please welcome with me Michael Nkonu, also our strong partners, to greet us and talk to us before we head into the presentation. Michael, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your introduction. Hi, everyone. Greetings from London. Just a few words on this particular work that is being carried out by Uhuru Institute. We, as Open Society Foundations, have always believed that the power and capacity of individuals and ordinary people to be able to champion their own development is actually at the center of socio-economic development for the future. And so our work in the as an organization that is championing social and ethical development is basically supporting organizations such as Uhuru to be able to support individuals and organizations and communities that are bringing themselves together to be able to develop. It is in this vein that we have been supporting the work of Uhuru and trying to see how we can support this sustainability of cooperatives in Uganda. And we hope that by supporting and looking at how cooperatives can become sustainable in the long run, particularly looking at all the different spheres of sustainability, which include organizational sustainability, financial sustainability, and even environmental sustainability, and developing frameworks that can support organizations to look ahead into the future and to be able to overcome any emerging issues that will threaten their capacity and also threaten their survival, makes it imperative for us to be able to support this type of work. So our hope is that the outcome of this report and the work that will follow will be able to support cooperatives in Uganda and also East Africa, and also make these reports available globally to international cooperative movement that would show the way of how cooperatives can become sustainable, how they can organize themselves, how they can be better suited for the 21st century, and how they can face the increasing headwind of climate change, which is threatening the survival and economic capacity as well as livelihoods of individuals and cooperatives. So we hope that this work will be useful. We as Open Society are willing to continue to support this piece of work going forward, understanding how it could be rolled out and also how it can be mainstream into the operations of cooperatives. So I wish you a very successful program, and we are with you all the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. Michael Nkonu from Open Society Foundation. Thank you for those words there. Before we get into the program that we are all excited and here for, and that is the findings of the report, of the research report that we're here to validate. This is will be an interactive session. There will be a time when we will call in for your questions to be answered by the panelists. The panelists are ready and geared up for the session. But before I get into that, I would just like to give us a couple of quotes on resilience. We're talking about resilience today. What is resilience? The team will explain that in detail, I'm sure. But a quote by Mary Holloway. Resilience is knowing that you are the only one that has the power and the responsibility to pick yourself up. Yes, the pandemic is happening, but you are the only one that has the power and the responsibility to pick yourself up. And just one more before we get to the panelists. Enthusiasm is common. Endurance is rare. This is by Angela Duckworth. Enthusiasm is common, but endurance is rare. It's all nice and well and good to set up cooperatives, to set up circles, but will you stand the test of time? Will you endure through the shocks and the stresses? Cooperative resilience, everyone. Now we're just going to get into the findings of the report. And as they're setting up the presentation, please, for those that have just joined in, my name again is Doris Mvano Ndizeye, and I am the moderator for this session today. I'm about to call up the principal investigator of the report. Again, just to mention that this research, has been approved by the National Council of Science and Technology from the President's Office and Makerere University School of Science Research Ethics Committee. We've been approved to take on this research, so we are definitely in great hands. Okay. If we are ready, I'll just have the principal investigator, Mrs. Jane Amuge Okello. Mrs. Jane Amuge Okello is also the operations director at the Uhuru Institute for Social Development. So please join me in welcoming Mrs. Jane Amuge Okello to present the findings of this report, for which we will be able to interact, interrogate, and share our thoughts. Jane, you're welcome.
Doris, will you make sure that we can see the presentation?
Okay, thank you. The technical team is setting it up just now, and we'll have it up. Jane can greet us in the meantime. Thank you for that, Gideon.
Thank you, Doris.
Oh, Michael, sorry.
Viewers and listeners, thank you to our partners. Can you hear me? Is the microphone on?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Our technical team will help there with just getting Jane's video up.
Here I am, Michael. I think you can see me. Hello, Ugandans. Good morning. Okay, so let's start on. Thank you very much for availing yourselves, and it's humbling to have all of you watching us today as we present to you a report for validation. In 2019, August precisely, we started our journey to seeking approval from the Makerere Social Sciences School Research Ethics Committee that gave us a go-ahead into the beginning of 2020 when the pandemic had just started raging. And so in May is when we got the approval to go and undertake this research. We went through a second layer of approval with the National Council for Science and Technology that gave us green light to go ahead and study. So thank you very much to the partners for supporting us in this initiative. So we went on to the field. That was in October of last year, and we have been analyzing data and we've been able to come up with our draft report. So today we will be validating a report, research titled Cooperative Identity, a Crucial Determinant of Cooperative Resilience, a Case Study of Cooperatives in Uganda. I am the principal researcher, but I was helped by James Kenga as the co-investigator, and with us we had a technical advisor who is Dr. Fred Omuza. And I really want to thank all the researchers with whom we obtained data. You risked your lives to go out there and obtain data, but it was a noble cause. Our presentation will mainly look at 5 areas. That's really introducing the study, which is what I'll be doing right now. Then we'll share with you our methodology for the research. Then we'll also be talking about our conceptual framework, and then the analytical framework and the findings of this research, and concluding and sharing with you the limitations that we encountered. We are at a point in time when we cannot relegate the discussion of cooperative around safe and secure food systems. The world has about over 700,000 people that are hungry every day. 700 million people that are hungry on a daily basis. And I'm sure some of us have Katumbo and Poa eat out there, but there are people that are hungry every day. But beyond hunger, we are threatened by pandemic, that's the COVID-19 pandemic, which has unsettled our businesses, and cooperatives have not been left unscorched. Now, this study is also in pursuit to the Sustainable Development Goals, within which secure agribusiness food systems sit. Within which agribusiness food systems sit. But also, when you look at all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, the discussion we'll be having in today will point into each of those. And I think at the heart of the work that the International Cooperative Alliance is doing, resilience comes in as a key area. As part of our contribution to Uganda's socio-economic development, TUI, Busara Center for Behavioral Economics and the Open Society Foundation could not have found a better discussion for us to have, and which is this research. Now, cooperatives have been lauded to be very resilient business enterprises, and yet also they are confronted with several risks. Now, we are saying that all businesses actually have risk, but the rational approach is to mitigate the risk other than abandoning the opportunity to provide value. And so a lot of the discussions that we are going to have is about, do we even understand our risks as cooperatives? What are we doing to mitigate these risks so that we are able to achieve all the goals that we've set out as clearly delineated in the Sustainable Development Goal? The world is also searching for models that can build resilient agribusiness food systems, and here we are contributing to that body of knowledge. So it's very untraditional not to talk about what cooperatives are. We cannot assume that everybody out there who is listening or watching us today actually understands what this animal called cooperative is. So cooperatives are universally defined as autonomous associations of persons formed voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. They are member-owned, member-controlled, member-utilized, value-based organizations. This is a very key definition as we go into the key findings of this research. We will also be defining resilience for you. I know sometimes we speak a lot of English and talk about resilience, but do we even know what this thing resilience is? It comes from a word resilia, a Latin word which means jumping back, and to the ability to recover and to emerge in academic literature. But in the context of the research that we're validating today, we define resilience as the magnitude of disturbance the system can tolerate and the desirability of a system state that enables it to anticipate, identify, prevent, absorb, and rebound from disturbance and adversity through exploiting innate capabilities, capacities, exploring and deploying innovative approaches for stability, adaptability, and excellence. So if you're a cooperative out there, each of these words should be hitting you as you look at your cooperative and think about your cooperative resilience. The purpose of our research was to establish a framework that will guide the prediction, identification, measurement, and reporting of risks, vulnerabilities, capabilities, adaptability, and innovative strategies and actions for the resilience of cooperatives. Today, we will be unveiling a cooperative resilience measurement framework that we have coined together, and we will expect a lot of feedback from you on whether our thought processes are exciting and will respond to the needs of the cooperatives. The key objectives of the research was to identify how cooperatives have optimized their unique character, enshrined in their definition, principles and values to cope, remain stable, adapt to situations, innovate, and remain resilient in the face of adversity. We also sought to establish how adherence or non-adherence to the definition, principles, and values of cooperatives have increased cooperative risks, vulnerabilities, and contributed to their instability, limited adaptation, and innovation, thus their lack of resilience. And finally, we sought to find out the influence of other factors apart from cooperative identity on cooperative resilience or a lack of it. The geographical scope of our research was in 63 districts. We were in Kampala, Kayunga, Mukono, Bukoma, Nsimbi, Gomba, Mitiana, Luwero, Kalangala, Masaka, Bushenyi, as the list is being. So we actually went across the country. And that's why I really thank the team that went to collect data. So we went as far as Nakapiripirit, Napak, Busia, Butebo. Some of these districts, we only hear about them in news, but our teams were there. In so doing, we reached out the 15 ethnographic regions of Uganda. That's West Nile, Acholi, Lango, Teso, Karamoja, Sebei, Bugisu, Bukedi, Busoga, East Buganda, West Buganda, Bunyoro, Renzori, Ankole, and Chigezi. With this coverage, we believe that our study has benefited from the geographical and the socio-cultural uniqueness that have shaped our findings. Our methodology, in addition to literature review, we have analyzed a wealth of quantitative and qualitative findings from cooperative surveys and sector key informants alongside focus group discussions. We held 101 surveys that were conducted majorly in agribusiness cooperatives. We visited 50 agribusiness cooperatives, and then the other 51 were from the sectors of financial services, mining, energy, transport, and consumer goods. And all that has been broken in here. So in terms of sector, mining only represented 1%, housing also 1%, energy 2%, transport 8%, multipurpose cooperatives 22%, financial services 23%, and agribusiness cooperatives at 43%. Why we went out for more agribusiness cooperatives is because first, Uganda is a country whose economy is very reliant on agribusiness, but also Africa as a continent has opportunity to exploit agribusiness to contribute to its own development and also farm its spot in the global economy. We held 34 key informants, and the people we spoke to were government officials from the Agriculture Department, disaster risk management stakeholders from the Prime Minister's office. We spoke to teams from the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Ministry of Finance, and the cooperative colleges, who are stakeholders that interact with cooperatives. The 16 focus group discussions we held had 128 participants drawn from the membership of the cooperatives across the 63 districts visited. In terms of representation, Eastern Uganda had the most cooperatives, that's 33.3%. Western had 23.2%, Central 21.2%, Northern 14%, West Nile 6%, and Karamoja 2%. We provide evidence of how the Resilience Measurement Index can be applied in a forward perspective to predict and identify risks and vulnerabilities that the cooperatives may be exposed to. In a backward perspective, to understand fault modes mirrored through the resilient quadrants, which we'll talk about at the end. And our results show an interaction between two or combined effect or reverse cause or effect relationship within the cooperative identity, characteristics, environmental factors, and cooperative resilience. Our analysis postures environmental factors as positively and negatively interacting with cooperative characteristics in determining their strength and stability. I would like to take a break and hand over to my co-researcher, that's Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Doctor, you're welcome.
Thank you, Jen, for the introduction, and good afternoon. We've just crossed over into the afternoon. I won't take long. I want to take about 15 minutes to get into the detail of what was considered at this point in terms of the conceptual framework. As Jen has indicated, there are quite a number of variables that were considered. In this case, we looked at the traditional values, the ethical values, and the principles of cooperatives to see how do these inform the resilience of these institutions. Now, the thinking is every institution will be faced by external and internal pressures and stressors that can threaten its existence or its ability to deliver the objectives and the goals that it set out to do. And if it is not resilient, then it will fall short of those deliverables. So the institution must be structured in a sense that it is able to withstand the internal pressures. Quarrels could be between different people, it could be departments, it could be its own internal dynamic that has not adapted to a change in its environment. How does its governance and structure of organization allow it to remodel itself? If the politics has changed, how do you survive? If technology is changing, taking away your space, how do you respond? We have been seeing these issues come up with COVID coming up. Some people have changed their delivery models and gone online. We are also here now meeting with very few people. This would have been a big conference, but some organizations that are not able to do this may go out of business. Others have now shifted, used to get money out of rent. People are no longer in businesses. Buildings are no longer the fancy for people to set up offices. How do you respond? This can be an external pressure, but the internal design of the business should enable it to restructure and reorganize itself to go out. Now, what determines this internal pressure? The others have talked about the ethical values, the traditional values, and the principles are the independent variables in the case of cooperatives, and we'll see what these are shortly. But cooperatives tap these to structure themselves internally, which we call the intervening variables, to structure their governance, to structure their marketing systems, to structure their partnerships. And as we know, cooperatives begin right at the primary society level and go all the way up to the apex. We'll be seeing how all these can help to build the resilience. Do you have annual general meetings? That's an internal structure, but which can influence the oversight function of the shareholders who are not involved in the day-to-day running of the organization, but also it allows members to see in. It is an openness, it's a democracy. These are some of the principles. Now, depending on how the organization taps those aspects to structure itself, it may become very strong or very weak in order to resist the external and internal pressures, as we've said. External pressures may involve technological changes, may involve political changes. As we all know, the cooperative movement in Uganda, 30 years ago, there was a monopoly. Only cooperatives would deal with coffee, would deal with tea, would deal sometimes with different things. But then liberalization is a policy change. Kind of change the dynamics, and anybody who did not transform to that may not come through. Some of them lost their assets. In a sense, how do you respond when your assets have been taken away? Now, those structures result into what we are calling the dependent variables, which are aspects of collaboration. You can be resilient if you have entities or partners to collaborate with, so that when you have a problem, those will bail you out. You can be resilient if you have a good market position. Your market size is big, that even if you lose yourself a portion of it, you are able to recover. What is your redundancy? Do you have some spare resources that you have not deployed, that when pressure comes, you are able to move on? We all know cars move on 4 tires, but there is always that 5th tire. Call it a spare tire. It is redundant. But when you get a puncture, it is able to make you resilient, that you are able to move on. There are other aspects, robustness, that we did consider in this consideration. So the conceptual framework is basically built on that, on how have these principles been used: voluntarism, open membership, democratic member control, member economic participation, autonomy, independence, education and training. How have they been used to build resilient institutions internally and enable them to resist any other internal or external pressures? And of course, we have the values of self-help, self-responsibility, democracy. Are they honesty, openness, social responsibility? These are kind of values, and they're expected to improve the situation. So in view of the principal agency theory, because we are saying the owners of the cooperative are not the managers, so they actually delegate other entities to run it for them. So to what extent are the managers doing what the members set out to do? Because remember, the members want this to serve them. So is it looking at the communities? We use those frameworks to try and see how the institution is structured internally, so that the agents are actually serving the principles, or have the agents taken on their own and they are doing their own other thing. Now, building up that, we are able to look and adopt a framework of resilience indicators that have listed market position, security, redundancy, agility, adaptability, risk management, and sustainability. We move on and look at a number of other analytical framework parameters to say if a cooperative is being financed 75% by members. That means it has an aspect of sustainability, it has an aspect of redundancy, it has an aspect of market position. If a cooperative is being financed, or it has a market itself to partners and clients, then there is awareness that is needed, agility, robustness, and innovation to keep those partnerships. So there's a whole range of parameters that have been listed, which are coming in from the survey findings, but linking to these parameters we have seen up of awareness, agility, robustness, collaboration, sustainability, market position, and security of this institution. So there will be a whole range of items that people will be able to look at. How does solidarity relate to collaboration? If your cooperative is engaged in joint policy and advocacy engagements, then there is collaboration, there is awareness, there is visibility, and quite a number of other parameters in that regard. Now we get into the dynamics of quantifying, because we wanted to pick up some index out of all this, and we look at an analytical framework that looks at the 3 principles I have talked about. One is the cooperative traditional values. Which values we have seen? Then there's the cooperative ethical values, and then the principles. So the traditional values, we label them as T, the ethical values, we label them as E, and then the principles, we label them as P. Now, there are 6 attributes under the traditional values themselves. The 6 attributes, as we said, are self-responsibility. These are under the traditional values: self-help, solidarity, democracy, equity, and equality. And we believe each of these contributes to the resilience of the institution. If there is self-help and members have paid up, then those members are committed to building this cooperative to help themselves. And there is self-responsibility that members are committed to say it is our duty to keep our cooperative running. But remember, if they are not having any annual general meetings, then the members are detached. And the cooperative therefore will become vulnerable because the commitment of the members will go away. So you want to look at how many people attend the AGM. If these are very few, then that institution is vulnerable. If the AGMs are not even happening, that institution is vulnerable. So we also have 4 other attributes under the ethical values. One is social responsibility, honesty, openness, and caring for others. Finally, there are 7 principles of the cooperatives: open and voluntary membership, member democratic control, member economic participation, autonomy and independence, training, education and information, cooperation among cooperatives, and concern for the community. So we look at each of these, and in our quantification, we begin with step 1 to say the higher level 3 aspects. If I was to distribute 100% and say 100% that cooperative is completely resilient. So what is the contribution of the traditional values on that 100%? What is the contribution of the ethical values on that 100%? What is the contribution of the principles on that 100%? So the first step is to distribute the 100% between those 3 aspects, broad aspects. Remember, under each of those aspects are some specific attributes. So the traditional was given 50, ethical values was given 20, and then the principles were given the remaining 30. Between them, they bring us to 100. Now, how did we get to this? It's quite of a triangulation, as I would say. One is a panel start to evaluate the importance of this based on their experience with cooperatives and other institutions. What is the contribution in these governance structures based on experience? But also the voices that were picked out during the qualitative data collection, quantitative data collection, the group discussions. What did the people say was strongest for these resiliences? So we combine that, but also the third aspect comes in from the literature review. Institutional economics, institutional management, institutional psychology. What do these literature and governance principles contribute? So this is not just an imagination. It was informed by rigorous methodological processes. That was at step 1, distributing the power between those 3 that you can see on top there. If you read that row across, you're looking at traditional values taking 50, ethical values taking 20, and then the principles taking 30. Now, you'll have to again read downwards under traditional values. Of its 50, what is the contribution of self-responsibility, of self-help, of equity, equality, solidarity, democracy? Now, these again, we made them total, but remember the total of 100 is now a subset contributing towards the 50 under that particular aspect. So self-responsibility under the traditional value contributes 20, self-help contributes 20, equity contributes 14, equality contributes 14, solidarity 18, democracy 14. The total is 100, but this 100 is part of the 50 of the overall total. So the bigger row on top gives you the contribution of the major aspects, traditional values, ethical values, and principles. And then downwards, what's the contribution of each of these attributes within that subset? Now let's move on to the next slide to get the actual numbers of each of these attributes. We do a multiplication. For example, you can say within traditional values, it is 50%. But of the 50%, self-responsibility is contributing 20%. So what goes to self-responsibility is the 20% of the 50. And so you multiply the 0.5 with the 0.2 and you get a 0.1. 50%, this thing is bringing in 20%, so its contribution is 10% to the overall total resilience of the institution. And there is a table. Let's move on to the next slide. Yes, that table there gives us the individual contribution now of each of these to the overall resilience. So you can clearly see that self-responsibility is contributing 0.1 or 10% of overall resilience of an institution. Openness is contributing 4%. You can pick any of those attributes and you'll be able to see that social responsibility is 7%. So nobody owes a cooperative survival because you are in a market where you have competitors, you have enemies. You cannot say it is my enemies that brought me down. It is your own social responsibility to design a system that makes that cooperative survive in a jungle world of business, in a jungle world of trade. Aspects of solidarity are contributing 9% because cooperative is about solidarity. Cooperative is about democracy. Are people feeling there is a democratic semblance? If you do not have good democracy, there is a 7% chance you are not going to be resilient. And so that table, when you read it, it will be giving you the percentage assigned to each of those attributes as a contribution. Having done those, we move on to computing a scorecard, and at that point we'll invite our other colleague to come in. James Kenga, I hope you're online. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yes, Dr. I'm online, thank you. I don't know, should I project on Zoom or?
Yes, please. James Kenga, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry, James, our team is going to control the PowerPoint presentation, I'm being told.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's fine then.
Please carry on. James Kenga is from Busara.
Great, thank you. Maybe you can also share what are they presenting on this on the Zoom call as well, so that I can also be able to follow up the conversation. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Thank you. Okay, great. So the culmination of our research and the discussions that sort of followed after led us to the development of what we call the cooperative resilience measurement tool. And the essence behind this tool is that we wanted to provide a simple yet useful tool for cooperatives to measure the resilience level. So I think from the research findings that have just been presented, it's evident that resilience is vital in the existence and operations of cooperatives. So we therefore hope that this tool will actually be a major boost in terms of pushing cooperatives to be more sustainable. So just to quickly go through this measurement tool. So this tool is divided into 4 key sections. So the first section is where each individual cooperative will rank themselves against what we call the cooperative principles. And then at the end of the first section, they'll be able to know what is their score, the resilience score against the 30% that Dr. Fred just shared with us in the presentation. And then the second section mainly deals with scoring of the cooperative across the traditional values. And the end it's for the cooperative to know how they've scored against the 50% that the traditional values do contribute to the resilience of the cooperative. And then the third section is the ethical values. So this again, the cooperative will score themselves across the different observable variables within these ethical values. And then at the end, they'll be able to get their score, which should be a total of 20% according to the percentage that ethical values do contribute to the resilience of a cooperative. And then finally now, the cooperative will be able to see what the outcome is, where they'll have a result of whether they're resilient or they score low in terms of the resilience level. So just to quickly speak what each of these columns mean. So the first column, which is column B, so this is where we have what you call the latent variables. So these are basically the cooperative principles, the traditional values, as well as the ethical values. And then in column C, we have the percentage that each of the components of these principles and values contributes to the resilience of a cooperative. So for instance, under the cooperative principles, we have one of its components is member member democratic control. And here, as we can see, that member democratic control contributes 5.4% to the resilience of a cooperative. And then next, what we have on column D are what we call the observable variables. So basically, these are the different parameters, or rather the observable parameters that contribute to these specific components of the principles, of the values of a cooperative. So basically what a cooperative will have to do when they're scoring themselves is they'll have to look at each of these observable variables and then score themselves whether they meet this parameter, score themselves with a yes, and score themselves with a no if they do not meet each of these parameters. So for instance, we have some dummy entries here within column F. So this is where the cooperative will be filling in. They don't have to touch any of these other columns, that is column B, C, D, and E. So basically, a cooperative will be filling in what we have in column F. And what we are saying here is that each cooperative will be measuring themselves against each of these parameters here. So for instance, for this specific cooperative that we were measuring with, we see that we have 5 parameters across the member democratic control variable. And for this specific cooperative, they score themselves as yes, meaning they meet all of these 5 parameters. So, and then column G here, it basically captures the amounts, or rather the number of variables that specific cooperative has responded to be meeting. So for instance, for this specific cooperative, it meets all the 5 parameters as stated here. And then finally now, we have to get a resilience score. So the resilience score is a score based on what we have based on the contribution, the percentage contribution of each of these components of the values. So this is also calculated mathematically. Of course, there's a function here that basically calculates what's your total score against this specific component of either the cooperative principles, the traditional value, or the ethical value. So basically, that's basically how cooperatives will be using this tool. So they'll do that for each of these components that are listed under all of these latent variables. So this is basically for the cooperative principles. And then once they have scored everything within this column E and F, now they'll be able to see what score they have, the total score that they have for the cooperative principles. So for instance, this specific cooperative has a score of 19.2% against the required 30%. So basically this means there's something here that the cooperative isn't doing. So once they're done with scoring themselves on the cooperative principles, then they can now move to the traditional values, where again they'll end up repeating the same process. So again, we see under the traditional values we have also different components like self-responsibility, self-help, solidarity. So again, the cooperative will repeat the same process just to make sure that they've stated either a yes or a no within column F to say basically whether they've met each of these individual parameters or not. And then, of course, once they're done scoring themselves against these traditional values, they'll also see a score here. So, for instance, for this specific cooperative, they ended getting a 48.2% against the required 50%, which I think overall it's a good score. And then finally, now they'll also have to score themselves against the ethical values. Again, same process being repeated also within these values. So, of course, they have to go to column F and score themselves also across all these parameters that they have been stated here. So just a reminder, the parameters can either be yes or no, depending on whether the cooperative meets that parameter, which that definitely will be a yes, and if they don't meet that parameter, then it should be a no.
Sorry,
And then of course
James, we're following you, but can you kindly go through quickly? We're running out of time, but very informative information there. Kindly carry on. Yeah, probably in 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes, if you can be done.
Yes, that's okay. Thanks.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, and then also finally, they'll also see what their total score is against the ethical values. So for this cooperative, they had a score of 14 against the desired 20%. So then, in terms of knowing their outcome, so here now what we do is we show the total score of each cooperative against the 3 latent variables that have just been discussed. So for this cooperative, they scored a 19.2 against the 30% of the cooperative principles. They had a 48.2 against the 50% of the traditional values, and they had a 14% against the 20% of the ethical values. So in total, they had an 81.4%. And 81.4%, the way we've coded this, it basically means this cooperative is very resilient. But then it's not 100%, which basically which means they have around 20% that they still need to work on. And for them to know the aspects that they need to work on, they basically have to go back to where they have the laws within section F to know what it is that they need to work on. So that's like a quick overview of how this tool is to be used. In terms of the next steps, we hope to share this with a few cooperatives to sort of like test how practical it is, and then we'll keep on improving on it, revising it before we fully launch it to the entire cooperatives in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you, James, for taking us through the cooperative resilience grid. Very, very interesting. Jane is going to conclude this presentation, and she's going to conclude this presentation, but we're going to take a break shortly after she has started off. So don't leave your seats. We're still together. We'll just take a short break after Jane has started, but remain with us. Jane?
Thank you. Just the same, we will continue with the presentation on Zoom while we take a break on NTV. We will now be looking at how we tested and applied the Cooperative Resilience Index and the scorecard. At the center of all this, we are saying that cooperative resilience is not easy. Cooperative business that can respond to their needs. Also, under self-responsibility, we looked at membership patronage, whether members are actually patronizing their cooperatives or they are going to the competitors, mainly the middlemen. Still under self-responsibility, we actually looked at rural-based agribusiness cooperatives, having members sharing their livelihoods, unlike SACCOs, who most of the members were in varying businesses, and I guess because of the nature of the business. In summary, we are saying that under self-responsibility, if members and the committees have self-responsibility, we can have collaboration, sensitivity, security, flexibility, and the willfulness to receive training, because in some cooperatives, people want to be paid to be trained. Under self-help, we looked at responsibly delegating authority. We realized that some people actually have members, have elected leaders, and they don't know these leaders. Some of these leaders are thieves. Some of these leaders do not have capability to lead them. And so we threw back, based on the research, that the role of selecting leaders in a cooperative can only be anchored in the responsibility of their members. Also, we looked at individual awareness under self-responsibility. Are cooperatives actually taking on the responsibility to read, to understand the laws that govern them, and to understand the environment, this competitive environment? Still under self-responsibility, we looked at proactive risk management, and we looked at disaster preparedness, where we identified cooperatives in Kasese, in Elgon region, trying their best to participate in disaster preparation response.
Jane, sorry. Thank you so much for that presentation. In order to give room for the participants who have plugged in, yes, can we maybe summarize in 30 seconds so that we get... Okay, so that we are able to get the views there. Just a quick one for those that are on Zoom, kindly mute and turn off your videos while there's a presenter speaking. Please do not speak when there's a presenter speaking. Thank you. Jane, please conclude. Thank you.
Okay, Doris, I will need 5 minutes actually to conclude. So under self-help, we also look at cooperative members resourcing their cooperatives. Also, we looked at solidarity that came out as a very key value of cooperatives. We looked at it as the glue of cooperatives. How are members balancing the social market culture and the capitalist union? Are people going in because they understand that it's a business, or they are going in because my village mate or my neighbor is in a cooperative? And so we realize that it is very important for the economic purpose and the social purpose to meet for somebody to enjoy being in a cooperative. And under this, we said it will be very risky for someone to mainly focus on solidarity and leave out the economic mission, because naturally people go into cooperatives for economic gain. Also, still, we looked at aspects of ethnicity. We looked at cooperatives participating in arts, music, and entertainment to bond themselves, and we saw that as very positive inclinations towards resilience. Then also we looked at the aspect of arbitration. Arbitration was discussed widely by the participants of the research, and a lot of them were not happy about how it's being conducted at the moment, especially the SACCOs, and therefore this is an issue that we would want to present to government and look at the laws around arbitration, because a lot of SACCOs that their cooperatives are going to collapse if they continue on the arbitration track. Then on democracy, we looked at democratic equality, where we are saying one member, one vote, and also this came out as an issue where some members feel that this particular way of democracy does not promote equity, especially for those that would have invested heavily. Then also beyond democracy, we quickly look at equity on the issues of dividends. Many people complained about how they've been in their cooperatives and they've not received dividends for a very long time. Others don't even know what these dividends are all about. Going quickly to equality, we discovered that a lot of cooperatives are suffering from the overconfidence and hubris of their leaders, where decisions are made without and ignoring the owners of the cooperative. We also cited out areas where the leaders should understand the difference between the person and then the position that they're occupying. We also looked at aspects of age, where we realized that there are few young people in cooperatives, and that there is also founder-member syndrome, where the people that came up with these cooperatives are saying, no, I'm not leaving. And someone in Kabale actually said, the founder members in our cooperative insist that they must be represented on the board. So when there's a board meeting, you find more people than the elected members. Some of those are the findings we are getting from the field. Equality and resilience, we also looked at aspects of religion. Quickly going into honesty. Honesty was very key and big in this research. We found it as a very key value in our cooperatives, and we saw that it determines the character of the people that lead us. And a lot of the people that we talk to say that the general society moral decadence is the reason why the cooperatives are collapsing. It's the reason why the leaders and the members themselves are not patronizing. We saw members as very big culprits on the issue of honesty. A lot of members take loans and they don't want to pay back. A lot of the leaders are also not honest. And then going back to openness, we looked at aspects of identifying risk, internal controls, record keeping, statutory compliance, and performance measurement. On social responsibility, we looked at the role of cooperatives in protecting the environment, and especially agribusiness cooperatives, where they are actually taking on to clean energy and also clean, smart agriculture, which was very positive in some areas. And also we looked at the role of cooperatives like Bugisu Cooperative Union that now owns a radio where they are doing education. Then on caring for communities, we also see that cooperatives are very much supporting their members. And then I'll go to economic participation, which is very key. We noted that there are cooperatives that are operating within a cyclic economy, cooperatives like Chibinge Coffee that are self-contained. They have a circle, they have farm management, they have all sorts of things, which is a very, very good example. We also see some cooperatives struggling and not having adaptive market systems. And then also we tackle the issue of static share prices. When you buy a share in cooperatives, the price of the share is going to be almost in perpetuity, and this we saw as a disincentive for cooperative resilience. Also, we looked at the aspect of lack of transferability of equity, where you buy your shares and you cannot sell your share when you're in a cooperative, but you can only transfer. That also was looked at as a disincentive. And then also price fixing by some of the unions was cited as a disincentive because of this competitive environment. Finally, on the issues of the principles, we looked at autonomy and independence, which brought out the role of government and NGOs in supporting. Government has been seen as providing an enabling environment, but also has been cited as providing a controlling regulatory and legal environment. So cooperatives are yearning to be seen as private businesses and not to be controlled by government, but just to be supported by government. We also saw overlaps within the MDAs, which is frustrating the cooperatives. Disaster management was seen as weak, especially because of the way the Prime Minister's office is deployed at the moment. So we're looking for more there. Cooperators are also asking government for peace and security to be able to continue. And quickly on the issue of private-public partnership, we saw that as an opportunity for cooperatives. In terms of training and education, this is a principle that was very, very much promoted, that the reason why cooperatives are where they are is because most of them do not know. And someone in Kabale said, in the country of the blind men, in the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is the king. So some of you are the one-eyed men who are guiding the rest of the cooperatives. In conclusion, we've concluded that it's apparent that for their unique attributes, cooperatives are naturally resilient entities. Firstly, because they're foundation for grassroots global change, whose very existence challenges the current economic system and contributes to the realization of sustainable development goals. And we fundamentally conclude that cooperative members and stakeholders must prioritize the cooperative values, especially self-responsibility, solidarity, self-help, and many others, as you see on the grid. And also with that would power them into educating their members. Also, we conclude that with their inherent culture, cooperatives can overcome all sorts of external pressures, whether it is a disaster or it is influence from an external party. They can do that. And for agribusiness, we cannot talk secure agri-food systems without ensuring a healthy cooperative culture amongst the owners and stakeholders that interact with these cooperatives. Agricultural cooperatives have to develop vertical linkages that enable them to respond to their needs. In achieving resilience, we note that it is a continuous process and that some of the cooperatives will move from being vulnerable, transient, rigid, and adaptive. But the best place to be is an adaptive cooperative. In terms of recommendations, the Rochdale values and principles can deliver both resilience and sustainability with only a few adjustments in the treatment of capital and profit. Improving the reward for investment so that members realize the long-term value of buying equity in a cooperative. Standardizing measures to ensure equity in the rewards of patronage and stamp out free riding. Government and donors should provide an enabling environment instead of a seemingly controlling authority. Cooperatives are private businesses. They need to have the liberty to work in a competitive environment with less constraints. Cooperatives who provide their members only inclined towards economic purpose should demutualize and become investor-owned firms instead of pretending to be cooperatives. Cooperatives must embrace technology because there is no place for business without being digital. The limitations of our study was that the resilience is generally an abstract subject to measure. So to come up with an index relied largely on the subjective views of the researchers and the qualitative findings. Secondly, the Cooperative Resilience Index was developed using the subjective rankings of the various resilience attributes, and the resilience indicators used for measurement were only picked based on what the researchers understood were the most suited. Lastly, the cooperative survey
were not randomly picked, thus findings fail to be generalized to all cooperatives in Uganda. Areas of future research, we recommend that the International Cooperative Alliance undertakes a study on what the values and the norms, what values and norms can be adopted from the new generational cooperatives that are mainly in the United States of America. But also that would then enable us to address some of the inherent limitations in the values and the principles, especially in the area of capital treatment and profit. With those very many words, I would like to hand over to you, Doris. Thank you very much for listening to us. I hope this research has added your knowledge value and that we'll be talking more resilience and cooperative culture going forward.
Thank you very much. That was Jane Amuge Okello, Principal Investigator of the Cooperative Resilience Research Report. We also heard from Dr. Fred Muhumuza, who was a co-investigator. He's otherwise a policy analyst. We also heard from James Kenga, who works with Busara and also contributed significantly to this report. We're running out of time, but we want to change the program just a little bit. We will launch, we have another book. The Uhuru Institute is quite passionate about this cooperative movement. So we are going to launch the Cooperative Business Success Handbook first. Then the questions that you're itching and dying to ask, we will request that you hold on to your seats and have your questions and answers and your question session after the launch. The person, very important person, who's going to handle the launch of the Business Success Handbook, Cooperative Business Success Handbook, is none other than Dr. Dunstan Kisula, the chairman of TUI board. Dunstan, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. Doris has made me a doctor. I receive. I'm an engineer by profession, not a medical doctor, neither by qualification, by studying. Okay, this is a very important handbook which I would want every cooperator to get. It's the Cooperative Business Success Handbook, and so it's being launched today. Please make sure you get yourself a copy. But still, having said that, James, Dr. Muhumuza, and Jane, thank you so much for the research, extensive research that you have done. I hope people will be able to get the presentation that was being made, because it's really, really quality. And I'm speaking for me because I'm a cooperator. And so as a cooperator, I was following very keenly the things that you are, the presentation that you are making, and it was making a lot of sense. So in addition to that, there's this handbook which is also being launched today here at Kampala Serena. Please get yourself a copy and you'll be able to improve on the way you successfully run your cooperative. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Dunstan. Apologies for that, Dunstan. I would just like to make a note. We were supposed to have the Honorable Minister of State for Cooperatives, Honorable Gume, Frank Gume. However, he lost one of his relatives due to COVID, unfortunately, so he was not able to be here with us. So just we will pray for him and request that your prayers go out to him as well. Thank you so much. So now, the moment that we've all been waiting for, because we are out of time, we would like you to volunteer and start the question session. It was a very information-packed, rich session that the researchers took us through on cooperative resilience. So I won't waste much time. Please feel free to start asking questions. And once I get feed, I will be reading the questions as they come. As we wait for the questions to come up, please raise your hand if you have a question. Please do not turn on your mic until you are requested to share your question. But as we wait for the questions, maybe I have a question. I can start off by asking any of the researchers, what was surprising from your findings? Any of the researchers, what surprised you?
I think my biggest surprise has been how we have underrated the values and focused more on the principles of cooperatives. So it got me to understand that the bedrock for all these cooperative identities actually within the values. So that was my surprise, because all this time I'm a cooperator, I've been thinking, oh, principles, principles, principles. So that for me was my surprise.
Okay, Dr. Fred, do you have anything to share? Anything surprising from your findings?
I think it was the wealth of knowledge of the people about what this is all about, interactions with them. When you read their messages from the focus group discussions from individuals, you clearly see they really have a passion to cooperate for survival, maybe because many of them, that is all they can do. They are not like many other people, elites and rich people who will always be knowing I have my 10 million, if I get any problem I can run there. These individuals know I have marginal income, all I need are people around me. So that for me is quite encouraging to hear those messages that came through the focus group discussions.
Thank you so much. Please bring in the questions, keep the questions coming in. I will read them as I get them. Feel free to write your question on the chat also, in case you're not being picked up on, but I'll ask my team to scan the participants. If there's anyone with a hand, please just let me know. In the meantime, James Kenga, this is for you. We talk a lot about mindset change to grow in any sphere, and I think cooperative resilience and how we think about cooperative resilience is also something that we need to change, and in order for these cooperatives to grow. What practically, James, can a cooperative that is plugged in right now do to ensure that their cooperative is resilient? Based on mindset change, what exactly do they need to do practically?
Well, thank you for that question.
James, can you hear me? James, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Did you get the question?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Okay. Carry on.
Great. Thank you. So I think, in my view, I'd say there needs to be a good. Hello.
Sorry, kindly, for those that are trying to talk, please kindly mute your microphones until you're allowed to speak. James, carry on. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for me, I'll say there needs to be a good connection between the cooperative leaders and the members themselves. I think we saw instances where this sort of like a disconnect also creates, a syndrome where cooperative members are not, hugely concerned with the operations of their cooperatives. So I think the mindset needs to come in terms of the connection between the leadership and the members themselves. The members of the cooperatives need to realize that these cooperatives are their own vehicle, it's their own instrument towards success, towards development. So it's essential for them to be a part of, the day-to-day runnings, the day-to-day decisions, and therefore emphasizing on, having that connection between the leadership and cooperative members. I think that would be the best place to start from.
Okay, thank you, James, for that. I have someone online, Stella from MPIFA, is saying now that COVID-19 has affected many cooperatives. Okay, what are the deliberate recovery plans? Okay, sorry, I'm just being prompted that NTV is about to go off. Thank you for those that are tuned in online on NTV. We are going into the news hour, so we're going to be cut off, but kindly join us on the Zoom link that has been shared to you already. Thank you so much for watching, and our thanks goes to NTV as well for airing this show with us. So when we go off on NTV, we are carrying on Zoom. Thank you so much. I will carry on with the question from Stella, MPIFA. She says, now that COVID-19 has affected many cooperatives, what are the deliberate recovery plans, not only with government, but also civil society and other players? She's the coordinator of Mpigi District Farmers Association, that's MPIFA. I don't know who from the panelists wants to handle that.
Is the question related to the research report?
NTV, turning on your world. Kaminga is brought to you by
Mirinda.
Yourself an ice-cold bottle of Mirinda Orange at any shop or supermarket near you. Mirinda Orange, the taste that makes you go OMG.
Program Guide
Is brought to you by
Star Times, winner People's Choice Quality Awards 2020.
Program Guide.
Introducing.
Still, I hope that has been answered well for you. Another question from Samuel from NAAC. I would really want to understand how cooperatives have been able to adapt to new technology, to adopt and adapt to new technology. Are there any key learnings that this study can point to in this regard? Samuel is asking if there are any key learnings in this study that can point to cooperatives adopting and adapting to new technology.
Yeah, we found very interesting insights, specifically from Annual Nino Earthworm Cooperative, as an agribusiness cooperative that is going into uncharted territories, producing fertilizer from earthworms, and also being able to use pesticides from the urine of rabbits that they were doing. And for us, that is technology, perhaps not digital technology, but being able to innovate within the resources that you have. We also found interesting stories from Shema Circle Union, where they are providing shared services for their members, and part of those shared services is being able to link their credit reference bureau to ensure that the borrowers are not moving between the different circles that belong to the union. For us, that was also very interesting to know that we are not as a circle, they didn't have to wait for the credit reference bureau, but to create their own self-sufficient system in place. Again, going back into other technology that is being explored, some of the cooperatives are now being able to use accounting systems, which originally they were not able to use. And for grassroots cooperatives, that is very inspiring, to see that.
Yes. Thank you very much, Jane, for that. I hope that answered your question, Samuel. Someone is asking, Godfrey, how do we access copies of the study report and the Cooperative Business Handbook? So regarding the study report, this is a validation workshop. We will take all the feedback we receive from you and then complete the report. Then we'll finally have that report. Regarding the Cooperative Business Success Handbook, but this will also be available. Regarding the Cooperative Business Success Handbook, we have our sales team that will be able to reach out to you. I'm going to give you also his contacts if you want to directly reach out to Lawrence Muhwezi. Lawrence Muhwezi, his email address is lawrence.muhwezi@theuhuruinstitute.org. That is lawrence.muhwezi@theuhuruinstitute.org. Feel free to write your email as well. Feel free to write your email and put your phone number and we will reach out to you. Lawrence can also be reached on phone on 0771 946 707. 0771 946 707 or 0774 195 112. 0774 195 112. Thank you. We have another participant, Amu Elise, asking, how can CBOs who are self-help, but when it comes to investing or business, it is an individual. How do they benefit from this? How can CBOs, who are self-help, but when it comes to investing or business, it's an individual, how do they benefit from this? Jane, are you okay handling that?
Just repeat the last question.
How do they benefit from this? They said, how can CBOs, who are a self-help, but when it comes to investing or business, it's an individual, how do they benefit from this? Is it clear?
Yes. This study was specifically about registered cooperative businesses which have value systems, and therefore for you to be able to apply these values and principles, it may be good for you to transform from a CBO or a self-help group into a properly registered cooperative, so that you begin operating within that framework. Doris, I also had a question from somebody on WhatsApp asking us whether our findings saw how the past experiences of the turbulence of the country affected resilience of cooperatives. Yes, we actually featured a livestock breeding cooperative in Amolata, which was very much affected by the Karamojong cattle raid, and that left it on its knees, and a number of the unions that also suffered from the insurgency, especially during the Liberation War, where a lot of them lost property and a lot of them lost their own produce. But also we see that government came in to compensate some of these cooperatives, and a number of them are pursuing that compensation. We also bring out the issues of liberalization, how cooperatives were caught unawares of a liberal market. They were used to a monopoly, some of them even a monopsony, where they thought it was all about them. Now, once liberalization came in, a lot of them were caught off guard, and that is something that cooperatives are still working on. But we also learned still from the historicals that some of the cooperatives that were very much formed by government at the time have struggled to be on their own. They've always run back to government to be babysat. And I do not know how far that is sustainable. We see them as weak and being very dependent on donors and on government for handouts.
Okay, thank you so much, Jane. We have another question from Technopop. I think that's the name of his computer. He says, in this era of low get prices for farmer commodities in face of COVID-19, how far can cooperatives, especially in Uganda, sail through the current tides? We see no policy in place to protect farmers from the current tumbling prices. How far can cooperatives in Uganda sail through these tides, since there is no policy in place, according to him or her?
We looked at value chain systems and ensuring that cooperatives actually link themselves to markets, and we very much looked at vertical integration, where the unions have come in, the marketing and bulking unions have come in to secure this produce at a time when there is bumper harvest but low demand, and in that way they've managed to stay afloat. But more importantly, that when cooperatives have also had bumper harvest and they've made money, we've looked at areas of reserves that cooperatives should be building their reserves such that in the event of a negative disruption, they totally do not flip off where they were moving. So I think it's important. That is if you're dealing in a commodity that can be dried. But also we are saying, are the cooperatives prepared to take advantage of the opportunities that are in the export market? Some of us are still stuck with growing tobacco, growing cotton and all these things. Almost everything is a cash crop right now, and people are looking for different things that you're not growing. Can we tune our businesses to what is being looked for? Can we explore opportunities in horticulture? Can we explore opportunities in grain and be able to participate strongly in those markets? Otherwise, if cooperatives are continuing to operate the way we found them, where their systems are very weak, where the bulking and storage is not done properly, the middlemen that have big establishments, grain houses and silos will outcompete cooperatives. Remember, liberalization is here, and I don't see it going anywhere.
Okay, thank you so much, Jane. Please keep the questions coming in. The next, this is a comment. Someone is facing technical issues, but she's asking, or he's asking, can we share copies of the presentation through our emails? Yes, once you've logged in with your email, we'll be able to share the presentation. Okay, someone here from, it's Wako Andrew. In his opinion, he says that politicians have contributed to the failure of cooperatives. Please note that these views are his and not the Uhuru Institute's. The politicians have contributed to the failure of cooperatives due to the money okay, it's not properly written. They, in according to their interest, I think maybe they got in for their interest. It is common in the Busoga region, and he's sorry that Honorable Gume couldn't make it. So he's saying, how are you going to help the common man who is interested in sharing money by the politicians? Jane, do you have something to say about that?
Like we concluded in our research, we say that cooperatives, if they really adhere to the values, which is self-help, self-responsibility, and therefore obtain the autonomy, not even a politician can derail you, because if you know where you're going, no one can divert you from the journey that you're walking. So I really would not think that a politician or even a donor can divert you, especially if you had a clear pathway, a clear strategy on where you're going and how you intend to finance and deploy yourselves to respond to the goals and the mission that you set as a cooperative. So I don't see it as a big issue if the members of the cooperatives can have solidarity, can practice self-help, and have self-responsibility. I really think they can stand and tell the politician to leave them alone to continue with their business.
Thank you so much, Jen. We are at 9 minutes past 1, sorry. Our program was set till 1. Thank you for bearing with us up to this point. I'm sure you've been equipped with a lot to take back home. I am kindly requesting, maybe we have how many more minutes? Maybe 10?
10 minutes?
Okay. If you can bear with us and sit in for just 10 more minutes for us to answer any more questions you have. And in 10 minutes, we should be wrapping up. As the questions come in, I have a question for James Kenga. The question is, how do you think the youth should be looped into this important conversation of cooperatives, let alone resilience of cooperatives? How do you think the youth should be looped into this important conversation of cooperatives and particularly resilience of cooperatives? James. James, are you still on with us? If James is not on.
Can you hear me, Doris?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay,
I can hear you.
Yes. Okay, cool. So what I was saying is, I think within the youth we also sort of like need a change in mindset. I know the youth, especially within this generation or era, if I say, I want to say that they're more of a generation that is more informed, and they have a lot to contribute towards the cooperative movement, not only in Uganda, but probably even in the entire globe. So I think specifically for the youth, that change in mindset that they can also either form their own cooperative or join existing cooperatives. I think that's the sort of conversations that they need to be having. And I'll actually push for more young people to sort of join existing cooperatives. I know we listed some of the challenges in which most of the founders do not want to sort of like give way to new generation, but then it's upon the youth to show the value that they can bring into these cooperatives for them to be able to convince the older generation that it's possible for them to actually take lead in the management of these cooperatives. So the youth, let them first consider changing their mindset that cooperatives, it's something that's also built and constructed for the young people and not only the elderly.
Great, thanks, James. As we come to the conclusion, there is a question here, and I think this will be the last question, and it's from Still Technopop. This is the name of the computer, I believe. He says, lately we as farmers found ourselves in the dispute between Kenya and Uganda on issues of aflatoxins. Many cooperators suffered losses, and so are the milk cooperatives in Western Uganda. Unfortunately, these issues have not been addressed. As Uhuru, what's your input in bridging this gap? And Jane, as you get ready to answer that question, can you just please wrap up your answer with one key takeaway that someone probably who has just joined in this workshop right now can live with? So you can answer that question and then give us your key takeaway that someone should go with.
Thank you, Doris. Going back to the aspect of openness, which we explored in our findings, we realized that farmers are being dishonest and not open about clean business. A number of them do not adhere to the drying and the post-harvest handling methods that they've been taught. For those that have not been taught about correct post-harvest handling, they need to actually invest in time and resources so that they work with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, especially the production officers at the district, to ensure that they understand how to manage their produce before they send out to the market. Now, whether we complained or we don't do anything about the challenges we have today, we are, at the end of the day, we are the losers. So first, going back to self-responsibility. How are you managing your grain? How are you managing your fruit? Are you overspraying the fruit so that it can get ready very fast so that you go to the market? Are you harvesting the coffee cherries before they've actually ripened? If we can address those issues, Kenya will not be a problem. Uganda produces one of the best agricultural products, especially when it's properly managed, that we should not be having trouble going out to the market. So it falls back to us. Self-responsibility, self-responsibility. But that said, I think we need to look at optimizing opportunities within the local market. I have seen people importing rice from different countries, or even we're importing sugar. And the question I've had is, with all these sugar processing factories, with all the rice production in the country, why are we not buying super rice, which smells very nice? And you know, we feed our children with rice made in Uganda. So as a take home, I would like to tell Ugandans and cooperators, one, that we must change our minds into people that are responsible. And it starts with us. While the government has a role to play, while donors feel sorry for us and want to help us, we must take responsibility for our destiny as Ugandans. And that responsibility starts right from your home. Are you teaching your children how to cooperate? Because in our study and talking about mindset change, we saw that in the olden days, children were taught how to cooperate. It was not just a discussion, but a culture that children were sent to deliver produce on behalf of their parents. Children picked their school fees invoices from the cooperative. So if you're in a cooperative and your child does not understand what it means to be a cooperative, those are the people that we are leaving and handing over as a generation to. So first, we must make cooperatives or cooperation a lifestyle, not something we go to because we want solutions of poverty or whatever situation is. Still around mindset change, we also need to become more hardworking and productive people. How much time are we spending in gambling places? Or how much time are we spending in non-productive ventures? As cooperatives, are your members productive? Because we say that a cooperative resembles its members, and the members resemble the cooperative. So if the members by 10 o'clock are going to a marua joint or going to drink alcohol, it means the cooperative has gone drinking. So we need to change our ways of doing things, and that means we need to adopt the culture of hard work, smart work, commitment, and living a community with integrity and purpose. In that way, we will manage and become resilient, not only in our cooperatives, in our homes, and Uganda as a country will also be resilient, and ultimately our Pan-African dream of having a strong African continent with productive and foresighted people will be achieved. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Jane. James, you've been working tirelessly with this report, so as we wrap up, can you just summarize, in 2 minutes, What you ask is from cooperatives and government, now that this research is just about done. And then also your parting shot for someone that has just joined in and trying to figure out what happened in the validation workshop. What maybe just give your key takeaway, a key takeaway that someone should go out with, even if they had missed, but they can go back with something. James? And then we'll be concluding after James.
Thank you, Doris. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you. I think my ask will be that since now we have findings from this research, I want to urge cooperatives to interact with these findings and just to see how they apply to their cooperatives. And most importantly, the tool, we'll also be sharing that with some of you. So we want to see cooperatives practicing out this tool from time to time, measuring their resilience, so that they know where exactly they stand against these different parameters or principles of cooperative. And as a parting shot, I think we sort of delayed in terms of having this conversation around cooperative resilience. Probably if we would have started this conversation before, perhaps in 2019, before COVID-19 sort of came in and disrupted a lot of activities with regards to cooperatives, I think as cooperatives we would have been much more prepared. So my other ask is for cooperatives to sort of like keep this conversation going on. Let this the end of this workshop not be the end of you speaking about cooperatives within, resilience within your cooperatives. Sustain these conversations with your cooperatives. Sustain the conversation with the government, ministries aligned to cooperatives. Sustain these conversations also with development practitioners out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.